Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome again to Piano Tech Radio Hour. Good to see you all. And good to see you all out on Facebook and YouTube as well. It's always good to have new voices here. This will be a fun session because we're reaching a little bit outside the technical side of the piano industry, our repair and maintenance side, into our sort of brethren and sisters in the piano teaching space, and we'll get into that in a little bit after people start finish kind of jumping in the session here. And let's see here. We got about we'll maybe start rolling here in about 2 minutes. We'll after people finish rolling in, and then while we're waiting, I think it might be useful to highlight our upcoming class with Doug Gregg. He is unlocking the power of cross-trade techniques in tools and piano work. And so, as we know, Doug is not only a piano guy, but he's also done stuff with everything from motorcycles and cars to furniture, and he's a doctor of veterinary medicine as well. So I'm going to put the link there in the chat and on Facebook and YouTube on the socials. If people are interested, make sure you sign up for that upcoming masterclass with Doug Gregg. Should be some good stuff. And I'll let a couple more people in, and then we'll get rolling here. All right, let's start giving an introduction to what we're doing here for those out on the socials that might be new to the program. This is Piano Tech Radio Hour. And what we do here is we gather here every Saturday to meet with and learn from the most knowledgeable and fascinating folks in the piano world. It includes manufacturers, rebuilders, musicians, makers of other instruments, teachers, and of course, piano techs. Our mutual goal is to become better at our craft, to help each other and create an ever more musical world together. And Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. And you can always find our archival episodes of the program on the podcast at pianotechradio.com. You can subscribe to be a member with Piano Tech Radio Hour if you go to bit.ly/join-PITRH. That's bit.ly/join-PITRH. And yeah, make sure you go to pianotechniciansmasterclass.com if you want to join for our Thursday classes, including Doug Gregg's that I just mentioned. But without further ado, I will highlight myself and today's guest for viewing, and we'll jump right into it. Let's see here. Okay, so today's guest for the session is Clinton Pratt, and very excited to bring him onto the program. So Clinton has some impressive credentials, and this kind of speaks for themselves. So with nearly 40 years of piano playing mastery and 22 years of teaching experience, by the way, you're looking good for your age there, Clinton. I'm like 40 years. Wow, he had some like prenatal experience, I guess. I don't know. But his insight into music education are sure to inspire us. He's the proud owner of a multi-teacher piano studio in Cincinnati, Ohio. He also serves as president of the Ohio Music Teachers Association Southwest District, is a member of the College of Examiners of the Royal Conservatory of Music in Toronto, Canada. He has a master's degree in piano, nationally certified teacher of music, teaching certification through the American Eurythmics Society, and I'd like to talk a little bit about that later today, and has also contributed to the field through publications in the American Music Teacher. And just a second, let me let a couple people in here. Yes, in publications. For those just joining us, we're just getting through our guest bio here. So he's contributed to the field through publications of the American Music Teacher, and his role in the editorial committee for that journal was from 2017 to 2021. And he's given over 40 workshops, local, state, and national conferences covering various topics related to piano teaching and running a successful music teaching business. And now he will add to his list of credentials appearance on the illustrious Piano Tech Radio Hour. So Clinton, welcome to the program. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, thanks. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. And so, as I was researching your areas of expertise, there's a lot of overlap with what we do in the piano trade. So what I think I'll do today is I'll guide the session out of curiosity and knowledge of kind of what are interesting overlaps or connections with our trade, tuning and caring for pianos. And I think, those things will include, running a business, potentially expanding. Like I myself do have a piano business that has multiple people tuning for it, just like you have a teaching business that has multiple people teaching for it. And on top of that, I think we can talk a little bit about your experience with teaching. Specifically, I'm interested in the Dalcroze Eurythmics because it's something I've heard of, but I don't know a lot about, and it would be just interesting for myself to hear more about that. And just kind of expanding a business, marketing business, stuff like that. That's my idea. But our audience has the capability to comment and chime in on what they want to hear about, ask questions, suggest topics and stuff like that. But, I might even put this in the chat here just for people's exposure to the topics we may cover. Although, did that go into the chat? Let's see here. Enter, send. What is this, too long? Oh, that's weird. It's trying to send it to waiting room participants. There we go. Any of the stuff that's listed there, we want to chat about, we can get into it. And then very quickly, I'll put that out in the social stream as well, in case people are curious to see what type of topics and make some comments on stuff. I'll put that there and then we'll get started. So basically, Clinton, I guess my first question is sort of like a very foundational one. Why piano? Like in these many decades and centuries ago of your life, it's been so much longer than it seems. Where did this all get started?
Yeah, so I'm 44 years old, and my older sister played piano. She's 6 years older, so she was kind of my first teacher. So that's why I've been playing for over 40 years. She would just sit me up on the piano, and it was very informal. It wasn't really lessons, but obviously very good exposure of just like having fun and playing. And we happened to be sitting at the piano, and I'd copy her and that sort of thing. So that's how it all got started. And I come from a musical family too. So both of my parents sang, and my aunts and uncles sang, and my grandma taught piano until she was almost 90. So, holidays were us sitting around singing for fun and 8-part harmony and somebody playing the piano and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I was always fascinated with families like that. We had a couple of pianos when I was growing up. We had both an upright and a grand, which is interesting. I didn't get interested in piano technology until, being a tuner until decades after that. But we did always have pianos around the house. And but it wasn't like that. I'm almost kind of jealous of those families that just you had so much musical exposure. I'm trying to think of the artist. You may know his name. He released Jacob Collier. Have you heard of Jacob Collier?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I saw him in person a little while ago. He's amazing.
Yeah, amazing musician, and the kind of musical sort of upbringing he had sounds very special, right? Similar thing, like family singing, playing instruments. He had a room full of instruments and stuff like that. Really cool stuff. That's great to hear. So I guess let's fast forward a little bit and expose people to this idea of the piano sensei. And I guess this is what you've called your business as it's grown. Maybe you've called it that as you were operating independently. But how did things evolve? Where did that concept come from, by the way? And how long ago did you transition from Clinton Pratt to piano sensei?
Right. Yeah. So actually, going back to when I was a child, we lived in Japan. So when I was sitting up at the piano with my sister playing, that was in Japan, where she had lessons, and we lived there until I was 6, and then we came to the U.S. So I feel very connected to Japan and Japanese culture, and so sensei is a Japanese word, and so yeah, um, well, first of all, I did want to say I was a very poor piano student because I quit all the time growing up. Um, but music was always a part of my life. So I would always play piano, but never thought it would, turn into a career. It was just always there, and then ended up winning a scholarship competition for college. But you had to study music in order to get the scholarship. So I was like, well, okay, I'll just do piano. So yeah. So then eventually, once I started teaching, the first time I used Piano Sensei was for my YouTube channel. Started doing some tutorials, and I thought, well, that would be a cool name. And then once I started actually having my own teaching business instead of just teaching at other schools or studios, I carried that over to that business name as well.
Okay. And how long ago was that you became the piano sensei on YouTube, I suppose, the initiation of it?
Yeah. So YouTube was 2010.
Okay.
And then about 2016 was the like you know, physical business name as well.
Yeah. Um, and actually I didn't mention wanting to talk about this up front, but I think I mentioned to you previously. It's always fun to see like what has been your interaction with our trade, piano tuners. I mean, some people are like, oh, I always use digital pianos. That never even comes into play. Or, oh yes, I have this tuner that I was always worked with, or I don't know, I can't find a good one, or been your experience, throughout all this with piano technicians?
Yeah. So when I bought my first piano, I wanted to make sure it was always well kept and well maintained. So I forget actually how I found the guy, but I've stuck with him for, well, that was 2008. So I've had him this whole time. He's great. Um, so yeah, I only know this one guy. So,
Do
but
you
my
do you know his
experience has
name?
been Russ McNamara.
Russ McNamara. Okay. I
And
don't
it's
know if I know.
Piano Perfect is his business.
Okay.
And I know yeah, he does the pianos for the Cincinnati Opera and several universities. He's really good. And yeah, I just wanted to say too to your audience, we as piano teachers might be a little annoying at times, with our demands. Like, this note is sort of fuzzy and I don't know what, like our little quirks, but be nice to us because, it'll pay off. For example, I have like 5 pianos now that he tunes, and like he tunes probably 15 of our clients. So, he's gotten a lot of business. So he treats me well and I treat him well. And even like a last minute thing, I had to call him, like a day before a recital that we have in our studio because we have space for that. And a key was sticking or something. Like, is there any way you can come? Because normally he's booked, 2 months out for tunings.
Right.
Um, and yeah, he's like, "Oh, I'll head there, right in between appointments or something." He came over and didn't even charge me, just fixed it in time for our concert. So I really appreciate you guys.
Awesome. That's great. Well, make sure you tell Russ to tune into Piano Tech Radio Hour next time you get to see him, and maybe we'll have him as a guest too. It's always interesting to kind of get different piano technicians' perspective from different areas and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Have you picked up any knowledge about how the piano works, or it's like how deep have you gone into kind of understanding the process of kind of tuning a piano to the right to the best degree or something? Yeah.
Yeah, no, pretty much zero. Some of my students say like, "Oh, do you tune pianos too? Can you come tune mine?" And I'm like, "No, no, no. That's like a whole other skill, and it's not just like a guitar. And just tune your own guitar." So, yeah,
All right. Well, I'll let this out. And I'm not sure how fast or far we'll move on this, but it's worth sharing. I think we're going to put together some classes, some digital classes for kind of your level of piano exposure, right? Where you can learn a little bit more deeply about the piano, like how it functions, um, what are the various, what's voicing, what's regulation, like how should that stuff go down, how long should it take, who should you have do it, stuff like that. And I think it'll be valuable, because I think a lot of people who are at the level where they could go that one level deeper. You can get a lot more out of a piano than you might have thought. The people have definitely have those situations where they have this piano and they have it worked on a few times, and maybe nobody even knows that they would like a little bit more out of it, so they don't even offer. And then someone comes around and says, "Hey, what if I regulated this? What if I voiced it?" And they say, "Okay, let's try it." And then it's like, "Oh wow, I thought I had to get a new piano to make it sound like this." So hopefully we'll get some of that content together soon. Let's jump around a little bit more, because there's so many fun things to cover. Tell me about Dalcroze Eurythmics and how you got involved in that. And then just definitely we'll dive a little bit into what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that is probably my favorite music topic. Dalcroze Eurythmics is a philosophy based on a guy, his last name was Dalcroze, so that's his name. It is all about, well, it's hard to define actually, and if you ask any like Dalcrozian, they'll kind of stumble around, because it's a very experiential thing. You have to do it to really know what it is, because it's basically experiencing music through the body. So it's like experiencing and learning and hearing music um, using your body, and your body is the first instrument. So it's a lot of movement. A Dalcroze class or training, there's no chairs. It's not a lecture. We're moving around. We're listening to the music and moving. And some people might think, oh, okay, like dance, but no, that's more maybe choreographed or specific styles. This is more just your innate sense, just like little kids, toddlers.
Mm-hmm.
They hear music and they bounce to it, right?
Right.
Or a very basic thing might be like clapping the beat. Okay, well, obviously, yes, that's a movement, but the philosophy is like the whole body. So moving the whole body, stepping the beat or running the beat, moving the arms, expressing the phrasing.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interactive. It's it's very game like, because there's infinite variations of things that teachers can do to help students sort of listen to music and embody it. And yeah, so, and one of my favorite sort of stories on how this got started was Dalcroze. He taught in a conservatory, and he started noticing that like all of these skilled musicians were skilled, but they lacked musicality and certain things, and he started doing these activities. He got rid of the chairs, had them take off their shoes and socks so they felt more grounded in their body and moving around, and they got way better. But they fired him because he wasn't teaching in the traditional way. They weren't studying books and taking tests that way. And so then he started his own school, and got real famous in different parts of Europe with teaching music and having these shows where there would be all these movement things, kind of like you would watch a dance, but a lot of it wasn't prescribed. It was people were improvising their movement.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. And it's reminding me as of late. So I studied neuroscience. I actually have a PhD in neuroscience. I don't practice regularly. I'm not working in a lab at the moment. I'm doing much more musical and entrepreneurial stuff, but I have awareness around that. And I studied the brain and nerves and sort of like neurons and how they work and stuff like that. But recently, I was kind of reminded of the vagus nerve, and I'm not sure how much you're aware of that particular nerve of the nervous system, but my understanding of it, and if you have any, you can share it. But it's one that kind of goes from your sort of movement kind of parts of your brain. It also connects through your ears and kind of like your face and your neck, and it kind of runs down the front and it touches your heart. and even into your gut, and some people refer to it as the rest and digest nerve, because it plays a role in both of those things, your ability to sleep well, your ability to digest well, and also kind of taps into this whole idea of gut feelings and things like that. With now they know your brain, your gut has neurons that are sending signals to your brain, just like your brain's sending to your gut, all this stuff. But the reason I'm mentioning it in the context of all this is I started doing some vocal exercises recently, because I wanted to kind of exercise that nerve pathway, and sure enough, it really does. It does affect you in ways that you just wouldn't think until you do it, right? It's kind of like you said, you have to do it. And what I was doing was I would just look up like just literally vocal exercises on YouTube and just do it for 10, 15, 20 minutes. And fascinated by how much it really affect like how I feel, like emotionally, feeling better, feeling more alive, feeling more active, and things like this. But yeah, I don't know. Does that play any role in what you're doing, or is that just kind of tangentially related?
Yeah, it's probably related. I have heard of the vagus nerve, and yeah, I've watched some videos on like how to not reset it, if that's the word, but how to like make
They say
sure it's
activate it,
yeah,
right?
activate. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's interesting.
So, in terms of the classes, you mentioned children, and I'm assuming I know a lot of piano teachers, that's kind of your bread and butter is kids, right? Because they have time and to take these lessons, and the parents have the motivation and stuff. But is the Eurythmics kind of, it's not necessarily just for kids. It just happens that you would do it with children often, and you probably do, yeah.
Right. Yes, it's very good for children just to get them like basically not to stifle their creativity and expression and movement and all that as they grow up. However, it's very good for adults too. Yeah, it can be for anybody. I know a teacher who does classes for senior citizens and goes to um, nursing homes and does light movement things with them. So it's good for anybody, and it can be very basic. Um, and very complicated. So some universities have it, have advanced eurythmics music classes where they're doing all sorts of things and listening to, harmonies and reacting to different things with the solfege and the form and combining it all. It's really quite something.
Very cool. Now that I'm not putting you on the spot here, but is there anything? Of course, we're all basically sitting here, and I don't know if anybody is going to get up, but is there anything to demonstrate specifically, or like, give an example that would help us understand it a little bit more before we would move on from the topic, or is
Yeah,
that too
and
far afield?
no. Well, yeah, and I can send you some links to like some videos you could watch of like a class happening.
Yeah.
Um, but even if it's just singing and like if you do do re mi fa sol and somehow in your body, so if we're standing up you could like touch your toes on the do, move
Hmm.
move up the body, do re mi fa sol, this
Right.
kind of thing, right? And then um an activity or a game with it would be, like maybe you copy me and repeat my movement and my singing, right? So like so fa so, and then your turn,
Right. Right.
right? And then yeah, and
So,
then you can
yep.
do variations like um, I'm just gonna do the movement, but you have to sing it back to me. And then
Right.
you do so
So
fa mi,
far me.
or
Right.
the other way around. Like I sing, and then you have to show me the movement. And that's very basic, just where you can do it in place, but you could do it on the floor too. Like I have these little hula hoops, and like each one is represents a pitch, and so you walk or jump. Do re mi fa so. The kids can
Hmm.
take turns, or they can jump, and everybody has to sing where they're jumping.
Hmm.
Just things like that, and that's just with solfege. There's
Yeah.
we can do it with rhythm, dynamics, phrasing, form, all kinds of things.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, my son is taking cello lessons right now, and he's been doing it for over a year. but he might have started at 4, or at least, during his 5th year here. And the first lessons were just holding the bow and how do you hold the bow and that kind of stuff, right? And how do you turn it and make sure you're strong enough, and not even bowing, right? He literally is just playing his first bowed songs after like a year and a half.
Mm.
And the teacher, and then you do some plucking though. But the teacher says, half of what he's learning is how to sit there for, 20, 30 minutes. And at the same time, what I like about what the Eurythmics is I sometimes get a little bit frustrated with our systems where everybody has to sit. And that's like that you have to be impressed that somebody could sit in a class for 8 hours a day or whatever, where like we're saying, kids like, and adults really naturally we're built to move, and it's good for us. And I have my opinion, not a professional medical opinion, but my opinion is that a lot of the sort of attention disorders that people are having are connected to their inability to move in their day-to-day life, because it's just like pent up energy. And if you get to actually do some movement, it actually helps you focus. So I find that
Yeah.
very, very interesting, and especially great for kids, right? Why make them sit still if you don't have to?
Oh yeah, I never make my students sit still. And sometimes like the first few lessons, if the parent sits in and then they're sort of scolding the child, like sit there, and then I have to scold the parent. I say, no, please let me do my job. It's okay if they move around. In fact, sometimes I want them to move around, like, and do an activity, so if they're
Yeah.
having problems with the rhythm, I'll be like, okay, get up, we're going to move around, I'm going to play, and step the beat around the room. Yeah. So it's definitely, they need to stay active.
Cool. Well, it's great to hear a little bit about that. Maybe we'll come back to it, but I'm going to jump into another area now. Let's talk business. I guess it starts with being an independent piano teacher. And you said you started your YouTube channel maybe 10 years ago. How long before that were you just your solo piano teacher person?
Yeah, so I started teaching, I think around 2005, at different studios. Like I would get hired to go teach at a music academy one day a week and then another one, so it's sort of all over the place. Um, Self-employed, but, just um, doing a variety. I taught one day at the university prep department. Then I got some students where I did house calls, so I would go to their homes and give lessons, and then gradually I just sort of distilled that down to one location where I was at, and kind of changed the agreement I had with the owner of that studio, and asked her, "Hey, can I just sort of rent the space?" And I run my own business, basically renting a room, but I still like I want to plan my own policies and calendar and worry about the payments and all that because I want to do it my own way, right? Because after several years, I got all these ideas of maybe what to do or what not to do, and I just wanted to do my own thing. Then eventually,
And she went for it.
oh yeah,
Okay,
hmm
that's cool.
well yeah, we had a good relationship, and I had been there several years already, and yeah. So then, at some point, that the business and sort of landlord where I was, that fell apart, and like the building sold, everybody had to get out and do their own thing. So I already sort of had my own thing in there. So then I found a commercial space, just transferred everybody there. And then from there, I grew, started hiring other teachers, and then eventually moved to a third location where we are now.
Got it. So I guess it just kind of sounds like this was natural for you. You sort of like, oh, I have a different idea how to do this, maybe a better idea, just or just whatever. It was kind of on your mind anyways, and you just felt the urge to implement it. And then as it was you doing it independently, you thought you know what, I could also help other people. What do you find unique about the way that you are managing things? Of course, you've got your brand, which is Piano Sensei. It's got a bit of that kind of Eastern flavor to it. I don't know how deep that goes, but is there anything else that's kind of unique that you've seen that you feel particularly good at or passionate about?
Yeah, there's probably a few things. Um, in two categories. One is like the teaching philosophy, and some unique things about that, and then the other is like actually running the music teaching business and how that's all structured and set up. So there's some unique things on both in both of those. I don't know if you want to hear about any of them or
Let's hear
all
a
of
little
them,
bit
or
of, yeah, let's hear a little bit about the philosophy. Yeah, the teaching philosophy. Would love to hear a little bit about that. I'm assuming, I guess there's some of this eurythmics that's part of the teaching philosophy. I don't know though. Tell us. Yeah.
yeah, right. So that's part of it. Now, I'm all into that and certified and done all this, but then I've hired other teachers too, so they're not necessarily as passionate about it, but I do. We have team meetings and I talk about those, and we do activities together. So they do incorporate some of that. Another big one is improvisation. So I'm a big proponent of that everybody, if you're a musician, you should be able to improvise. Just like if you speak English, you should be able to make up sentences. Um, so, it was always a little weird for me to meet somebody who didn't improvise because I
Hmm.
sort of always did. I just thought that was normal. Like, hey, play something. Oh, okay. Well, let me just play something. Even teachers can't do it, and that's
Yeah.
appalling to me. Like, why can't you just play something? I mean, it doesn't have to sound like a Chopin scherzo. Just play something.
Couple chords, right?
Something. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's a big thing is improvisation. Every student, even from the very first lesson, we're improvising, even if it's just here, play two black keys and copy my rhythm. Do, 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 whatever. It
Right.
doesn't matter. Imitate a bird, imitate a lion. So just from the very beginning is improv.
Yeah, that's cool. Of course, I'm improviser as well. I studied jazz piano in my undergraduate degree, so I totally have that as well. It's like I've just always wanted to make stuff up, and so it comes easily. And it is funny. I have to remember that that's not natural to other people, and even very experienced players, classical musician, play this amazing thing. Hey, well, let's play improv. Like, oh no, that's not me. So it sounds like your approach to it is very like, uh, you know, not. This is the first thing that's coming to my mind, but it's disparaging, like lowering the bar, like lowering the barrier of entry. Really, is what it is. It's like improv is make it sound like a cat, make it sound like a dog, whatever, and then they can just have fun with it. So I'm imagining, maybe you can clarify, but it's like, what is it, like a line, and then they like start pounding on the keys, or it's like a little cat and they start playing on the light keys or something, right? Or whatever they want to do, I guess, right? Is that how you treat it?
Yes, exactly. And I'm very um I believe strongly that um, everybody can improvise and should. So that's one of the topics I present at music teachers conferences too, is because a lot of music teachers or piano teachers, they want to, maybe they improvise a little or maybe not, and they know that it would be good, but they're terrified of how to do it or teach it. And so, I help them like realize and give them tools to like, no, you can improvise and you can teach it. This is how you do it, yeah, and just start very basic and give parameters. Yeah, even if it's just like you said, um a cat or a waterfall or whatever, you want to think about the aspects of that and how that would translate to music. For example, just is it loud or quiet, and is it going to be high or low? So a bird, let's think about that. Okay, well, it's probably going to be high and quiet and fast, right? So fast and slow. So you have loud and quiet, high or low, fast and slow. That's basically everything. And then you can even get creative with it by like showing pictures or something. So I've got 6 pictures of different things, and then I'm going to play one and you guess which one it is. Oh, well,
Mhm.
that's obviously a waterfall because it went right.
Right.
And then they try it, that sort of thing. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be improvisation, doesn't have to be, oh, I know I'm going to come up with a, 6 chord progression, and then I'm going to play, chord tones in the right hand, focusing on the thirds. Like, you don't have to wait until you get to an advanced skill level to improvise.
Yes. Yeah. And that, any kid really improvises, right? When they get the piano, they start poking around on the keys and trying things out, and think they like the sound, they play it again. Yes, I like that. Um, So yeah, let's flip the script a little bit and we'll go to like the business practices thing. What have you found is unique about how you run the business? Have you brought on staff? Is it more of it's just kind of you and you're doing everything from soup to nuts to teaching and coordinating and accounting and all that stuff? What are your kind of business unique qualities there?
Yeah, well, and just to give you a overview so you know what it's like, it's me and four other teachers, so there's five of us. I'm the administrator and the owner, and there's no other staff. So right now I'm the, administrative assistant and the janitor and the event coordinator and the CFO and everything. Now the couple things that make it unique um, for like a piano teaching business, and I don't know how much of this is interesting to you or the audience, but just to cover it
Go
basically,
for it. Yeah.
one would be like policies are very strict, but I can break them if I want, and it's important to set it that way, especially when you have like a regular recurring type business. So with yours, I don't know if you set up like, oh, I'm going to come to you every 4 months or every 6 months or whatever. Obviously, piano lessons are usually once a week, right? So something that's going to be happening like that, there has to be some kind of commitment. So one of the things that I get in arguments with with other teachers is that we do like no makeup lessons or rescheduled lessons. So when people say, oh, I have to miss because we have a birthday party or whatever, okay, see you next week. So we don't go through the headache of trying to figure out, okay, well, when am I going to reschedule it? Or did you give me enough notice? Or was it a last minute? Or was it an emergency? Is it important because you had a family member pass away? Or is it just because you wanted to go to the park with your dog? Like, I don't want to deal with any of that. So I want less stress. So I just, for a long time now, it's a very strict, we just don't reschedule any lessons. So you just come, you come when you can. And if you don't, you don't. And they pay a flat monthly fee. And that covers lessons and group classes and all the materials, all the events, and they just pay that year round. So in the summer, because a lot of people suffer in the summer because people want to go on vacations and do all these things, the nice thing about the way we do it is we don't lose income in the summer because they're paying the same amount all year round regardless. So we have fewer appointments, we have fewer lessons in the summer to allow for, oh, we're going on vacation for 2 weeks, or like I have a conference to go to, or I want a break. So we have fewer lessons, but it's all figured in the math for whatever they're going to get for an entire year, and they're just paying monthly payments. So we don't lose income in the summer because the payments keep happening.
Okay. So and so like I'm assuming there's some kind of contract then that people sign when they get started. Is it a month to month, or is it like an annual contract, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's just month to month. Even though, we hope people will stay for many years, but no, they're not signing up for any kind of long term. They can quit anytime. But we do have a they pay 2 months up front, like first and last.
Okay.
So if they sign up and then they quit, I guess that's 2 months. So they're doing a 2-month commitment.
Right. Got it. And so, and then just to, because I'm curious how this works out in the summertime, just to be clear. So somebody could take the entire summer off, but they would still pay monthly. Or does that happen? Or exactly how do people like go, oh, hey, I want to quit for the summer, and then I jump back in, and you say, no, you can't do that. If you still want to be our student in the fall, you pay for the summer. Like, just how does that tend to work?
Right. So you're either enrolled or you're not. So, hey, we want to quit for the summer. Okay, well, I'm sorry, then you're quitting. So then they quit. And then if they come back, they come back. But again, then they got to pay the 2 months again. And then they have to take whatever spots are available, which is usually not many because we're almost constantly full. In fact, I'm trying to hire another teacher or two right now because we have a wait list. So yeah, but the thing is, most clients stay enrolled through the summer because we have fewer lessons in the summer. Okay, so that's the thing is most other studios, the clients quit because they want to take a couple of weeks of vacation but not have to pay for it. But in my
Mm.
studio, you can still take your 2 weeks of vacation because we're only doing like 6 lessons during the entire summer anyway. So we're just scheduling your
Okay.
lessons. Like we'll do 2 in June. You don't have to come at all in July. We'll do 4 in August, or maybe twice a week, you know. And so we get your lessons in. You can still have your break. I still have my break. Nothing changes with the payments.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about kind of the business and the finances on the piano technician side a handful of times, and it is always interesting. I mean, there's definitely themes here across industries of especially people beginning in an industry and being timid about how much they should charge, how strict they should be, how like tolerant they should be with, difficulties with particular, types of clients and stuff like that. And the themes, I guess, that we encounter here, I would say other people could say something different if they feel we encounter different things, but generally charge more, be more assertive about how everything's going to roll down, and don't work with people who you don't want to work with. just don't work with them. Yeah. But yeah, it seems like those are kind of across industry themes. Would
Yeah.
you agree?
Yeah. And I wonder, I don't know if any of you do this or have thought about it, but I thought it would be neat to have a like subscription with my piano tech. Like instead of just calling him and say, "Hey, come tune," and then I pay you $200 for piano each piano or whatever it is, I'll pay you this much per month, always, forever, like a retainer, and then when they need tuned, you come, or whenever or something like that,
Yeah.
where it's maybe beneficial for both of us.
Right. Well, I'm happy we can continue that conversation because I've tried to think about ways to set that up for our business in New York. And I think there's different entry points. But it'd be interesting to get a perspective from a piano owner going back and forth, to figure out what are the selling points. My most recent thoughts about how people could be attracted by it is I feel like they would want something. They would want the actual monthly expense to be maybe less of a commitment financially, or it's just something you can't say no to, like $5 or $10 a month, right? I mean, $5 or $10 a month, what that adds up to, it doesn't add up to a whole piano tuning. Let's say $10 a
Right.
month or $20 a month would add up to like a piano tuning cost or something like that. Now, in that case, it's not a lot, but it's also kind of a lot, right? To just like sit down and distribute, depending on whether you're piano or not. And my thought was maybe you have them subscribe for a smaller cost. It's very easy to say yes to, like $5 or $10, but then it just makes your piano tunings cheaper when you get them. Or, maybe you could even make it, and this of course takes a little bit more work, but you could almost make it like a membership thing where it's like, oh, $5 or $10. And you know what? We're going to get you some discounts at local restaurants or some other things like piano lessons or whatever. And then, by the way, you also get your discounted piano tunings and you're in the club or whatever. But yeah, those are some thoughts I had. But we haven't ever I actually don't know. I think I might have heard of one piano technician that has a successful like monthly subscription. So any
Yeah,
other thoughts on ideas on that? Yeah.
well, I think I would even pay more. I would maybe pay a premium. Like, in other words, however much the piano tunings cost last year for my studio, whatever that is, if I divide that by 12 months, um, I would probably even pay a little bit more than that. Like,
Mm,
whatever that monthly is, I would pay a little bit more if I knew, like, maybe I was a priority or something with
right.
scheduling. Um, or like I can, if there's something like it can be a more immediate, like on call thing, you
Hmm.
just come and fix this real quick, um, or that type of thing. Yeah, I would. I know people want discounts, but I would almost be willing to, if it's spread out over the year every month, I would even pay a little bit more if that meant some other kind of perk.
Yeah. How many tunings do you tend to get in a year? Is it like 5? Is it like 10? Is it like
Um,
20?
it's usually 2 or 3.
The whole year?
Yeah,
Okay.
five
Got it.
pianos. Yeah, I keep the humidity pretty consistent, so yeah, it used to be, you know, as you know, they go out of tune worse when it's up and down more. But
Hmm.
yeah, like we have a big whole place humidifier for the winter when it gets dry, and then a big dehumidifier in the summer when it's damp.
Cool. Interesting stuff. Let's talk a little bit about the kind of marketing and website side of all this stuff, because we all have to do that. Well, we don't all have to is a complicated word. Some of us do websites and marketing, some of us don't, but it's something that overlaps with what we do. What's your approach there? And what have you learned that has worked well?
Yeah, so I've overhauled the website several times. But yeah, I've learned that less is more. And there's this famous quote, which of course I'll butcher right now, but it's from a designer. It's something like, you know, it's perfect when there's nothing left to take away.
Hmm.
So most people try to keep adding things so that until they have everything that it wants, right? Like let's put pictures of this and my profile and all of this and my phone number and my email and a contact page and a subscribe link and a, you know, but it's like no, that's too much for you want it's too much for a prospective client to do. I mean, not that we have all these ignorant people running around, but you almost want to treat it like just make it very obvious. So for a website, very few pages, you know, you probably only need like the homepage about.
I'm gonna pull up your website right now. Is that cool?
Yeah, and so I have
Okay.
two different ones.
Oh,
So
okay.
one
So
is
I've got Piano Sensei. What's the other one?
yeah, okay. That's right, that's for the business. So that's
Okay.
good.
All right, let me bring that up. And then if there's another one that's useful, I'll do that, but we'll start with that. Okay. Yep, I see that though. It goes well with your theme of kind of like the sort of Eastern, simple kind of the art of
Yeah,
simplicity, right? The kind of Marie Kondo type of
right. And
idea.
there's only two, so that's the homepage and then there's an about and a lesson. But if you look there, book a free trial lesson, that's the only thing that they can do.
Right.
Okay, so there's not a um because a lot of times if people don't know what to do, they won't do anything. So if there's that and then like another form to fill out or like my email address, then they're like, okay, wait, do I email them or do I book the free trial or do I call them or do I
Hmm.
sign up for the email update or
Hmm.
so you want one thing and that's a call to action,
Hmm.
the CTA, people call it CTA. So you want one clear and consistent call to action and that's whatever you want them to do, which is probably contact you, right? Or whatever it is. So for us, we want people to sign up for lessons, but the first step is like we want them to reach out and like do it, take the first step.
Hmm.
And for my studio, it's book a free trial lesson. So for you, you know, might be like reach out for a consult or call about blah blah blah. So whatever it is you want them to do, that's the only purpose of the website. So don't give them other things to do. Hey, there
Right.
we go. Right. Now there's two things to do. So I'm already confused a little bit, not to be hard on you, but which one do I do? Right. So
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
totally.
assuming if I'm ready to book, I'll do book now. And if I have a question, maybe I'll do contact us.
Right.
Right. So maybe that's what you're thinking. So that's pretty good. But if you can do just one,
Yeah.
it's probably better. Now I do have a contact. I think if you go to the very bottom on every page, there is a contact button and it'll just pop up contact us. So yeah,
Yeah.
I do have two things to do, but basically every page has book a free trial lesson all throughout it, you know, before the reviews, after the reviews.
Right.
There's photos and then there's a book a free trial lesson and then
Right.
there's an explanation and then book a free trial lesson. So
Right.
it's like, "Oh, what do you want me to do? Book a free trial lesson?"
Yeah. No,
And
I get
yeah,
that. Yeah. Hmm. It sounds kind of both obvious and not obvious at the same time, right? I think that the not obvious side of it is people might be kind of concerned that you're being too obvious, I guess, or you're like making it too beating someone over the head, like you have to book a free trial lesson. This is what you have to do, right? I guess that's the side of it that's not obvious, where people might be resistant to being so redundant or repetitive or whatever. And then the obvious side of it is, well, yeah, I guess if that's what you want them to do, don't mince words, don't make it complicated. This is what you should do if you want to work with us. You're on our website. If you want to take the next step, this is what it is. There's nothing else.
Right. And every now and then I do get contacted through that contact thing, and someone will ask a question like, "Hey, we're interested in lessons. What's the next step?"
Right.
And so I reply and say, "Oh, you can just book a free trial lesson. Here's
Right.
the link." And a lot of times they write back like, "Oh yeah, I did see that on the website, and we'll do it right now." So it's like, well, they saw it. They still
Yeah.
didn't do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people just like that. I mean, we have that too. They just want to talk to someone. They just like that idea of having a phone call or something like that. Yeah. Cool. Anything else about that you've learned about the design and marketing side of things?
Um, let's see. You should have a Google business listing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I found out that that's really important because when people search for whatever service it is they're looking for, the businesses that are near them will pop up first,
Mm-hmm.
in addition to maybe somebody who paid for ads. So like I've tried Google Ads, it's very expensive and competitive. Like it's ridiculous per click, whatever. But the
Mm-hmm.
Google business listing is free. And I realized a lot of people were, when they joined and I asked them how they found us, they said, "Oh, we found you on Google." And I thought, no, you didn't, because my page is, the SEO is not good. Like we're like page 5. I didn't pay for ads. Like we're not on there. But I realized, oh yeah, the business listing is on there. So when they search piano lessons Cincinnati or piano lessons near them, it shows up and we have photos and reviews. They see it right in the web browser in the search engine. And then that's how they find us, and that's free. So everybody should take advantage of that because you show up just because you're a local business.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I totally concur with that. And I also have to say, I will share this. It's a little bit of a business business secret for me, but I guess whatever, it's fine. We did the calculations. I didn't do them myself. I had someone on my team who was managing the marketing just do the calculation to say how much does this Google business Google ads cost, and we'll have to pay this much for a click, and then we'll get a client, and the math just did not work out. Like it was too much. Like it just was a dumb idea. Like if you just do the math, it was not a appropriate idea for our particular business. Now it could be different for others, but so I guess my side of that, which is coming out of this, is if you are considering a Google ad, give yourself or some other expert that you trust the opportunity to just do the math, right? Don't just think about it like, oh yes, ads, maybe that'll work. Do the math and think how much you want to pay for a customer and what kind of conversion rate you're going to get. And if the math doesn't work out, don't do it.
Right.
I think this is how some of these places are making so much billions of dollars, the Facebooks and the Googles, right? Because there's plenty of people who don't understand the math. And there's like, I'm just going to advertise. That's it, period. Oh, okay, great. We'll charge you this much.
Yeah.
You want to give us money? We'll take more. Yeah, I get that. All right. Well, this is super valuable stuff. Clearly there's a ton we could talk about more, but we're certainly running towards the end of the hour here. And we didn't get any questions, although I didn't solicit them from the chat. If anybody had some last minute thing they wanted to cover, or, if you think there's more to be discussed, any of the topics we covered, let us know in the chat. Otherwise we'll be signing off soon. I guess, Clinton, I know that you launched a podcast, I don't know how long ago, I don't know how intentional you're going to be about continuing it. Is that a thing that's going to be an ongoing concern soon, or tell us what people should look out for and pay attention to on your side of things? You got a YouTube channel.
Yeah. So I just launched the podcast like 2 days ago. So
congrats. I was one of the first listeners of the first episode.
Yeah, I haven't even told my close family and friends yet. So I just put the trailer out there, so it's like a 5-minute, sort of intro. But it's called The Piano Sensei Way, and you can do Piano Sensei Way, thepianosenseiway.com. And I'm very intentional and excited about it because it's something I wanted to do for a long time. So yeah, I'll probably do every 2 weeks to start, but it's going to be focusing on um, running a successful piano teaching business. So two-pronged, the teaching and the running the business. So
Okay.
sometimes I'll have a guest on, and sometimes it'll just be me solo.
Okay. And again, let's see, Piano Sensei. I'll put the link in the chat here. Sensei podcast. Unfortunately, I'm searching with Bing, which does a terrible job of finding things. So Piano Sensei, I'm finding it on
So yeah, it should be on.
pianosensei.com.
So it should be, well, I mean, you can just go to thepianosenseiway.com.
Oh,
But
the Piano Sensei Way, the
and
pianosenseiway.com.
it should be on, right? It should be populated now in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Amazon.
Perfect.
Should be on the main ones by now.
The main ones. Yeah, very cool. Well, I'll put the link in the chat. That forwarded me to this the actual pianosensei.com. But I'll also
That's
put
where
the other one.
Yeah, that's where it's living right now.
The pianosenseiway.com. Yeah, that should work as well. So yeah, encourage people to check that out and subscribe.
And then all of them will have videos too. So I know like you do, you know. So that's also the Piano Sensei Way on YouTube.
Yeah, great. Okay, perfect. Well, anything else you want to add before we roll off?
I think this was fun, and I hope it was informative and enjoyable for your audience. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think we had a good time. All right, well, I'll sign us off with our kind of typical outro, and then we'll roll. And then maybe, you can jump back on after everybody drops out. But I will say officially, we've reached the end of another musical journey here at Piano Tech Radio Hour. Thanks again to Clinton Pratt, Piano Sensei, for joining us. As always, we are brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, cutting edge instruction for piano industry masters without leaving your home. For those of you that joined us today, signing up for this session individually, make your life more convenient. You could subscribe to PTRH at just $16 a month. You get the recording of today's session in our member area, automatic registration for each week's new session. Sign up at bit.ly/PTRH, bit.ly/join PTRH. I put the link in earlier for our upcoming masterclass with Doug Gregg on using the tools of other trades. So also encourage you guys to sign up for that. That will be the third Thursday of this month. And I'll put the link in again for those of you that joined us late. And that on the socials, that's already there. Chris said, thanks, Clinton. Well done. Chris, thank you for your feedback and input. Appreciate that. And yeah, it's exactly the end of the hour. So I'll sign us off right on time. And I'll see you back in a minute, Clinton. We'll just wrap up. All right. Have a nice week, folks.